How much responsibility does Buster Posey want to assume? Remember, as a player, he was a leader in his way, wasn't really an out front guy, a vocal guy.
Swinging by.
Scotty,
Appreciate the
you.
time, Ken. Oh, no. You
You're
can't
good.
hear me
You're
right
good
now?
now.
Oh, you're good
You
now.
got me? Okay. Inside Scoop, FT Senior Insider Ken Rosenthal with us. Appreciate the time, Ken. Let's get your reaction first to Buster Posey taking over for Farhan Zaidi at the top of the food chain in the front office for the San Francisco Giants. Were you shocked?
Not surprised that Zaidi is out. Yes, a little shocked that Buster Posey is the new president of baseball operations. Quite obviously, he has no experience in running a team along these lines. He was an advisor with the Giants, and certainly he has an amazing baseball mind. We all understand that. But running a team, acting as president of baseball operations, that is a much different thing. And I imagine he can succeed at it, but he's going to need to surround himself with accomplished baseball people, experienced baseball people. Otherwise, this can be a real problem.
That was going to be my question. Is Farhan, because I saw it when I was there in 19, he's built a great department, whether it's front office, analytics, people who really connect with the players from analytics to the field. He built that up. Is there going to be more chips to fall here? Is Buster going to, you think, have his own, I don't know, like say in other decisions that we're going to see, or is it going to be more behind the scenes stuff?
Hard to say, Eric. Certainly he'll have his own print or own imprint on what the Giants do. That's why they hired him, and that's why they dismissed Zaidi. They want to go in a different direction, do things differently. That's understandable, and anytime there is a regime change, new people are brought in, if not right away, then eventually. Now, in their case, they're going to need to hire a general manager, someone who has a clue about how to go about the day-to-day baseball operations. Buster, like a lot of great players, is extremely knowledgeable about the game, but that's different than effectively running a business. And that's what he's going to need to do here. Run a business, a baseball team, all of that. He probably won't do much necessarily on the business side per se, but running a team in itself, handling payroll, all of that, there are business skills required. So I expect there to be other significant changes. Obviously, they're going to have to bring in people to the front office to assist him. As far as overturning the good of what they have, this has always been described to me, Eric, by veteran executives as a very tricky situation. You don't want to come in and just start firing people. Dave Dombrowski has told me this. Pat Gillick told me this years ago. You have to look and see what you have, because I'm sure, I know this, the Giants have extremely talented people in their front office, and many of them you're going to want to retain.
Yeah, and baseball teams have more employees than most people think. I'm going to put it that way. I know a few teams I've asked specifically, hundreds of employees that you are overseeing. It is that big of an operation. I know the Giants operate that way too. So, Ken, I want to give some flowers to your colleague, Andrew Baggerly, who essentially pointed this out weeks ago. I mean, who the heck sees a deal get done by, an alum who's super respected there and kind of working with the front office at the time, but not to any position of power? So Andrew Baggerly put out that story about Buster Posey helping to get the Matt Chapman extension to the finish line. When we look back, it's quite obvious that there was real meaning to what happened there. Do you think, I don't know, what did you take from that and what we saw going forward? I'm almost trying to think, like, did they already know? Did that help for them to kind of finalize that this is the guy for the job moving forward? What do you think?
When Andrew broke that story, to me, to him, to anyone reading it, it was a clear signal that Farhan was in trouble and that Posey was going to assume a greater influence. The question at that time in my mind, and I think in the minds of some people who work for the Giants, was, okay, how much responsibility does Buster Posey want to assume? Remember, as a player, he was a leader in his way, wasn't really an out front guy, a vocal guy, and actually was not someone I ever pictured wanting to do this. He is not someone that I thought would welcome the kind of attention and scrutiny that this position is going to bring. Obviously, he loves the Giants. He loves the game. He wants to do this. It's great. It's great to have people like Buster Posey in the game. But that story that Andrew Baggerly broke, and it was a really good break, a really good story, definitely indicated that something was amiss in Giants land.
So what do you think is going to be his first order of business there? Or what do you believe you think he has to do in order to send the Giants off into a better path for next year?
From a management standpoint, it has to be the hiring of a GM. I don't even know how he can go about it over the next 3 or 4 weeks without getting a GM in place and getting up and running before the GM meetings in early November. Buster Posey, it's just going to be a lot of things coming at him at once, and he's going to need a capable GM and probably a capable assistant GM as well to handle not just the decisions on payroll and player evaluation, but administration. That's where the assistant GM might come in. So I see him kind of orchestrating the vision and putting what he thinks are the proper standards in place or the proper ways to go about building a team. I don't see him doing the nuts and bolts of it. So he's going to need to build that type of infrastructure. As for the team itself, they actually did quite a bit last offseason. Remember, they brought in Lee to play center field and he got hurt. And they brought in Chapman. They've re-signed Chapman. They have some pieces in place. They had some intriguing young players emerge over the course of the season, Ramos being most obvious, but over the course of the season, we had Tyler Fitzgerald and Birdsong and others as well. So they're going to need to replace Snell, and they're going to need to keep building the offense, I would say. But that comes after all this other stuff when you put the front office in place.
Do you think Bob Melvin is still okay? Because, usually someone wants to put a stamp on their own team, but do you think maybe there's probably a buffer for a year for them to do some evaluating?
I would say, Scott, you have it just right. Okay for now, but Buster Posey is not the guy who hired him. Buster Posey is a guy who played roughly the same era as Bob Melvin. Bob Melvin played before him, obviously, but was a manager while Buster was playing. And it seems to me, knowing both of them, they share some of the same values, same beliefs about how a team should be run. So it will be interesting to see how this process plays out, but I would expect that Bob Melvin might be more simpatico with Buster Posey than he was with Farhan Zaidi. Not that they didn't get along, and remember, Bob Melvin and Zaidi knew each other from Oakland, but Buster Posey is more kind of an old school type, I would think. He's not going to be averse to the analytics or anything like that, but he has a certain sensibility that was built with those great Giants teams. And that to me would seem to be in line with the way Bob Melvin sees the game as well.
So Ken, let's finish with this. And of course, we're going to be covering this team and everyone else all off season long and what moves they'll do, the whole deal, right? So we'll break down the roster. But big picture here, I think the part that stands out the most is you have a 37-year-old player fresh off the field who is a legend really in San Francisco for everything that he accomplished, taking over the top job in a front office. Do you think it says anything about the sport? I know we mentioned Chris Young earlier, although I'm looking, Chris Young spent a lot of time in the league. He was pretty, well prepared for a job like this, or at least had a lot more under his belt. Do you think there's anything to a shifting in the sport? Not saying that there's going to be 15 more Buster Poseys taking over front offices, but where some players and even maybe owners think that we've gone too far down the, I'll call it Wall Street Ivy League route of people taking over front offices?
It's a great question, Scott. And certainly Buster Posey is a unique case. He is a legend with that team. He was a catcher. He's brilliant. He is the picture you would draw up if you were going to do a move as bold as this. And it is a bold move. There's no doubt about that. Whether it becomes a trend or not, I would tend to doubt. Not every franchise has a guy like that in their organization or close to their organization. But the greater question, which you ask, is, are we going to shift away from some of the more heavily influenced analytical thinking and go more toward a balance? Now, every team says they're balanced, but few teams are as balanced as they claim they are. And certainly, there are things that have happened in the game that you would say, well, why not do it the old way? And why not at least incorporate that more? If you remember when analytics came to the fore, initially, when they started coming into the game, the analytics people were shouting, hey man, the old school won't let us in. We want to be included. We have information that can help you. Now, it's completely reversed. It's the old school people saying, hey, what about our expertise? And the analytics people, in some cases, pushing them at least to the side. So this balance that we talk about, it's something that the game needs. It's something that really every good organization should be striving for. But I think in too many cases, it's lip service and not actually what teams do.
Yeah, I can't agree more. I mean, we've taken it quite far in some respects, in some organizations, the preset lineups and win projections, obsessions with certain platoons, all that. So anyway, there's a lot of good, but we'll dissect this more in the offseason. Ken, thanks for swinging by for the breaking news, and we'll talk soon, okay?
Thanks, guys.
We get it. Mornings are nuts. No time for breakfast, but you need to get your day started right.
What if a delicious, nutritious meal could be ready in seconds? Support for Foul Territory is brought to you by Huel, the world's #1 complete nutrition brand. With over 400 million meals sold worldwide, Huel is trusted by millions of people looking to fuel their days with convenient, complete nutrition. Try it for yourself with this exclusive FT offer. 15% off with the code FOUL at Huel.com.
You know we're all about saving time, but we get hangry, like a lot. I recently fell in love with the Huel Ultimate Super Greens Powder, which is a perfect blend of 91 vitamins, minerals, and whole food sourced ingredients. I also love their complete nutrition bars, and those hot and savory pouches are fire too.
FT fam, give it a shot. Get 15% off with the code FOUL at HUEL.com. Unlock a healthier, easier way to eat with Huel. Nutritionally complete meals in minutes so you can focus on what really matters.
Hey everybody, be sure to like and subscribe for more content.
We're back here every weekday, all year long, so do not miss an episode.
The videos are coming in all day. Here's another video you might enjoy.
Baseball the way it should be covered.